I think it was something about what do you see happening in the medium term? What's your vision for what you'd like to see?
I think you said specifically in the culture war piece in your question, Dave, it was the
Hmm.
red religion, blue
Good.
church dynamic.
Well,
Make it a bit more
Yeah.
focused.
I actually heard two distinct questions there. One was, what do I see, and what would I like to see? Which would you prefer? Both. Por qué no dos? All right. All right. I think I mentioned this in a different venue, but I'll put it this way. Sorry, I'm noticing that my hairstyle is vectoring directly into the American Revolutionary vibe. Pretty soon I'm going to have a Thomas Jefferson bow in my hair just because it's going to be necessary. I think everybody's going in that direction, except Alexander Biner is going more in the Weinsteinian direction.
I'm going full on. Yeah, not back.
So one of the things I think is a kind of a primary opportunity right now it's something like growing up, maybe, or stepping into the, how do I say this? All right, maybe I'll say it this way. This is just a frame, but you can do this across a bunch of different dimensions. So this frame is, hopefully this frame lands. I've done it before, and I think it worked out pretty well. So one of the things that I've discovered, or at least have noticed, is that human beings have, I think, very distinct developmental stages in our lives. And there really is a difference between childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, mature adulthood, and elderhood. Right? They're just different stages, neurologically, physiologically, all of it, right? All the way down. Actually, talking to somebody yesterday, I was giving a deep dive on the actual neurological changes that happen in men in their early 50s. It's a real thing. All right, so that's one. And then two, we could talk about the notion of there being different, this chronos, kairos. There's different states of the context that we find ourselves in. And the hypothesis that I would put forward, and it doesn't really matter too much whether my hypothesis is any good, but use it as a way of thinking through the question that you're asking. Right? This is a way of creating a model that helps anchor that. Is that when things are good, I think Dave actually sent me that message, right? Bad times create strong men, that one, something along that. So during good times, there are things that can be done and should be done by people at different developmental stages. But during bad times, there's a transformation that needs to occur, that there needs to be a different capacity or identity. We need different things. So for example, in this case, what I would say concretely is that the elders really, really need to step into elderhood for the first time in our lived memory. So I don't mean nearly people who happen to have a lot of calendar years on their biography, who've been around the sun a bunch of times. I mean people who have actually lived life and remember things, like they remember when people actually used to sort of do things for the right reason, when people thought that lying was shameful, when people knew their neighbors and cared for their neighbors, like they have an embodied experience of the things that we need to actually relearn pretty quickly. And they've actually lived first person, and they can share their first person experiences of what meaningfulness actually is over the long arc. And I think I said this previously, I don't care that much about the stuff about the things we do. It's okay. I mean, it's cool. I really like the fact that you have really deep learned experience about how to change the fuel manifold in the 57 Chevy, or how to rejigger the way the IRS's COBOL system works. Those are good skills. But that's not the time. And elders, that's not the role. Right? For an elder, it's actually stepping into helping people reconnect with the foundational archetypes and the deep felt sense of humanness, and orienting people towards rightness, right? Calling people up into a greater sense of the commons and their role in this bigger picture, in the story, in the arc of life, right? If you're face to face right now with mortality, bring people back to feeling what it feels like to be human beings alive in the world. That's the elder. Right? To step away from narcissism and entitlement and themselves, and particularly materiality, and step into the sacred fully and help represent that for everybody. All right. Well, now I'll be hard on my own cohort, the maligned Xers. Right? Our problem, our sin, is that sin of cynicism, the slacker mentality, the skeptical mentality, the how would I put it? Well, as a generation, we're all kind of a bitch when it comes to it. All right, fine. We have to actually step into service. We have to take responsibility. We have to actually be willing to do the thing that perhaps our lives have prepared us for and bring that into the whole, right? Without cynicism, without skepticism, with actually hope. And in most cases, actually, I mean Vervaekian hope in the way that we've been talking about it. Because most of us have kids. Now, this is that question we talked about earlier. We can't ask those kids to solve these problems. We have to solve the problems. And some of us have things. Some of us have been working a long time trying to figure things out, and we've been awfully beaten down. Look at, all right, I'm going to shout out to Eric right now. Eric Weinstein. You've been shaking your finger at this for an awful long time. But we just have to step up. We have to take personal risks. And this is the time where Gen X actually has to be willing to put ourselves right in the line and be willing to take risks as individuals and just say, this is what we think is the thing to do. And we're willing to take positions of responsibility and leadership in service of the whole. Right? That's the Gen X responsibility. Then you got your millennial responsibility. And think about this, Dave, again, from the point of view of what does it mean in the context of the culture war when people move from an immature state to a mature state? I think that's really what I'm saying. The immature state resolves the culture war in an immature way. The mature state resolves the culture war in a completely different basis, a completely different footing. Right, a bunch of boomers who got mad at each other in the 1960s and 1970s and never got over it and are still fighting about something that's 30 years old, when they step into a mature state and they recognize they're both going to die in a couple of weeks anyhow and they might as well get their shit together, they can heal those wounds in a real way and recognize they have a responsibility to heal those wounds on the basis and for everybody else. That's just got to get resolved, and I mean immediately. All right, Gen Y. It's actually taking responsibility, meaning, okay, good, we get it. You've been coddled and put upon for a long time, and you were sold a bill of goods that wasn't true. And Gen X, by the way, has been telling you it hasn't been true the whole time, but we suck at it. Well, guess what? This is actually your world right now. This is the world you will be the ones who are actually living into and making this world. So we're here to help, but you're going to have to do most of the work and take most of the personal risks, because worst case scenario, we're going to die sooner than you do. You're going to have to live through and endure whatever happens after this. So it's a big thing, but taking personal responsibility doesn't mean trying to carry burdens that are not your burdens. That's not how it works, right? Trying to imagine that you can do things you can't do is not taking personal responsibility. Taking personal responsibility is things like not injecting noise into the comments. Just a simple thing like that. If you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, then shut up. Ask for help, right? If a conversation is going on and you have an impulsive response to just drop nonsense into it, stop doing that. And if you're interacting with somebody who is doing that, tell them to stop doing that. And that's like the simple stuff. But as people actually begin to behave in just a simple, mature fashion appropriate to the developmental stage, reality begins to reset itself and things begin to happen. And then, of course, we got the kids again. So we loop back to them. And their job is to just be kids. For God's sake, can we stop making them have to be machines?